All right, how is it going? We are back with another episode of the Susquehanna JT Exchange podcast. I am joined today by, again, Coach Weir. How you doing?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. And today we are joined by Senior Captain Austin Hurrell. Austin, what is up, man?
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we got speaking to that microphone.
Yeah, I got you. My fault.
So, Austin, thanks for joining us today. This is your first time on the podcast.
Yep.
Once again, we have switched locations. We are in the field house. I'm trying a new piece of equipment out, more of a on-the-road type of thing. So, Austin, let's start off by why don't you tell us about yourself? Where you're from? What brought you to SU?
So I'm originally from Horsham, Pennsylvania. I looked at Susquehanna originally because of the track team. I saw they had a track history of winning, and I did a lot of that in high school, and I just wanted to keep that going. And luckily, past 3 years, we've done nothing but win, and hopefully I can finish this season off strong with another championship. So,
yeah, what's your major?
I am a finance major with a minor in economics.
All right, so as a senior, what plans do you have?
Right now I'm looking at jobs close to home so I can just stay at home and save some money and pay off my student debt. But luckily, I got a place to stay. So
yeah, mom and dad always coming in
Yep.
clutch, right? Why don't you share what's your favorite experience so far as a Susquehanna track and field athlete?
So my favorite experience right now would definitely be from nationals last year when we were running the 4x1. Coach Zimmerman now, at the time, he was a teammate and he was our anchor leg. We were in finals and he crossed the finish line. And our main goal was to obviously do as best as we could, but not get last place because there were 9 relays in the heat. And if we beat one person or one team, that meant we were first team All-Americans. And when we realized that he crossed and finished before one person, we celebrated like we won the entire thing. And it was an amazing moment to celebrate on the infield.
And the NCAA broadcast
Yes.
displayed you guys like you won the entire thing.
Yep.
I actually just watched that probably a month or two ago. I was going through some old videos on my phone, and that popped up, and it was prideful, but also kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know, Zimmerman
100%.
comes through the line like
Screaming.
What were we, 7th? Just
Yeah.
like cheering
Yeah.
and yelling and whatnot. But it was, a pretty big accomplishment coming out of lane 1.
Mm-hmm.
That event, it's tough to run fast in lane 1, and you guys did what you're supposed to do. It was a cold, rainy day, and we were really, really excited that we, achieved that goal. So thanks for joining us today. What we're going to get into, we're going to recap a pretty busy week. Easter week's always a little crazy for us. We had Wednesday, we had the York Twilight meet, which traditionally has been like a distance meet for us, with it being earlier in the spring. We've had some good performances there in the past with the track. And then on Friday, Saturday, we sent a small group to Ursinus. They did their Spring Fest, so we had some hammer throwers go out Friday night. And then what did we take? I don't know, 15, 20 people, I think, total.
Yeah.
On
just
Saturday. So let's look at on Wednesday. So York. Looking, back, we were looking at the weather, showing like 80 degrees, which we don't get very often in early April.
No, we don't.
Like I said, traditionally we've gone down there, and even when it's been cold, we've had some pretty good performances on the track. Jumping-wise, we've done pretty good. It was an interesting day, to say the least. We had some great performances, some not so great, and then some head scratchers. I think. I don't want to speak for you, but I know looking at the temps, we were really, hopeful for some really good times in the sprints. I know that our track tends to be very fast because it's hard. And I think what happened is while our kids ran well, I think that the track got a little too soft.
Yeah.
I think the bind-in surface, the spray-on surface, as it gets warmer, it gets softer. And I think it got a little spongy. So I think some times that we were expecting in the hundreds and in the hurdles just didn't quite come.
Yeah.
But we did have, some success in the 4x1. We did run a season best. We did have 2 relays. Austin, we'll get into your final hurdle here in a minute. But what can you tell me about the short sprints and particularly the 4x1s?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, I think we were hoping for some faster times because I think in past years when we've gone there, it has been a little colder and we've performed relatively well. But unfortunately, sometimes the facility just doesn't work with us. The surface just doesn't do what we're hoping it does. But overall, we had some very good performances still. I think one thing that's really big for me as a coach, I am very happy with consistency. And I think a lot of our sprinters across the board were running relatively consistent for what they've been the last couple weeks. So I think that it's a matter of managing expectations, because they always want to perform better. They always want to see those times start to drop, have season's best, personal best, those kind of things. And when you look at some nicer weather, that expectation's kind of there, and they're expecting to go out and take 0.2 of a second off of their 100 time. But from my perspective as a coach, if our athletes are running pretty consistent from a week-to-week basis, regardless of the conditions or how the track's responding, that tells me we're in a really good spot. And it's just a matter of time for, things to start clicking, get that perfect weather where the track is, fast, responding well. That's when you're going to see those times really start to drop, towards the end of the season, if we're pretty consistent through the main portion of the season. And we had some season bests, some personal bests. Got a couple kids back from injury, Austin being one of those, Jordan being another one of those guys, and, coming back from being a little beat up. So it was really good to see, those guys get the opportunity to run and run relatively well. Austin, you opened up with a pretty good time, pretty consistent, given the amount of time you've been off the past couple weeks. And then, going into the 4x1 there, we're making some personnel changes. We've got a lot of very talented individuals kind of fighting for that fourth spot. I think we've got probably, four or five guys that we're looking at right now.
Not in Austin's eyes. There's one.
yeah, of course. Yeah. But, we tried out a different order. We ran 2 relays, kind of just testing out some personnel and some different positions. But they ran very, very well. When the baton was in their hand, I think we've got a couple, tweaks to make from a handoff standpoint, but they ran very well, put themselves in a decent position from a national standpoint, which, again, we kind of talked before. It's early, so those numbers don't necessarily matter, but it gives that group, that confidence. They can kind of see, okay, we're running around where some of those top programs are. So that gives them a little bit of motivation as we continue.
Yeah, I think Coach Weir, he's always nicer than I am. Obviously, for me, there's some high expectations with the 4x1 team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Austin. We opened with it. Speaking of how we were all first-team All-American last year, we did lose Brandon Zimmerman as an athlete, and that's a big loss. However, we brought in Owen Nugent.
Yep.
We switched the order around, so we're pretty solid with our first 3. Mm-hmm. And we've tried some people out. I think it was we ran a couple different. Oh, I guess it was just Nate was the different leg the first time. They went 42-0, and for the temps that was good. We threw Calder on it this week. Didn't really get a chance to do a lot of handoffs. Yeah. He left out a little early, ran away from Mason. They barely got the baton in. And they still ran 41, I think it was 41.6.
41.68.
And, I did some calculations breaking down the film, and we were about a half a second ahead of the team that won the race. And I got to think Calder's going to stay ahead of that kid by about the same amount. So, realistically, we're probably under 41, and that's what we need to be. I think qualifying for nationals is probably going to be 40.6 or 7, probably 40.6 or 5. Actually, it's going to probably improve a little bit this year. Austin was on the B team this week, as we mentioned. We were trying to get him back from injury. He's had that bug his entire career, the hamstring bug, and it's just kind of been a process. But you've keep working hard and stayed patient, and so you were the anchor leg on the B team. And what happened with your exchange?
I think what happened is I got out a little bit harder than I expected compared to practice, and so our exchange in practice was pretty much perfect in terms of the spacing. And when it came to just getting out a little bit harder than expected, I just started to run away, and we ended up being out of the zone and came to a dead stop just to get the baton in my hand. And I decided to finish the race anyway because I needed to get the rep in and just cross the finish line.
And let's talk about that finish line. Yeah. So there was some meet management snafus down at a York, and Coach LaBianco might not even know it. They never moved the blocks out of lane 1.
Yeah.
So who started the race for us? Frankenfield? Was it Nate?
Yeah, it was
Nate,
Eli.
yeah.
It was
Oh,
Eli.
Oh, yeah,
Eli
yeah.
filled in for Rowan, that's right. So Eli's starting blocks were still in lane 1 as Austin came barreling down the home stretch. And rather than run around them, because there's no one in lane 2, he chose to hurdle them.
Yep.
And I'm glad he's okay.
Not bad hurdle for him.
With a hamstring, I don't know, he kind of was like flying through the air. But with the hamstring injury, I'm glad you were okay. in the future run around them.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're going to put you back on the A team this week.
Yep.
We'll get into the future plans for this weekend, but to kind of go back through and recap York, some good success. There's one thing I do want to highlight, but typically I said this is a distance race. Unfortunately, as we got to the 5K, it started pouring.
Yeah.
The meet as a whole was just interesting. We're kind of like looking at the sky the whole day. Jumps was a little questionable because it was just taking a long time. They ended up canceling the men's triple jump because the sand was wet. But 5Ks we had on the women's side, I think all but one or two girls PR'd. Men's side, I know that it was really raining for them, and I think only Derek and Hunter were the only two that raced in that.
Yeah.
And there might have been some other PRs throughout the day, but the highlight, I think, was the question mark of Mason in the 4 hurdles.
Yeah.
This was a gamble that we took. I guess this was his dad's event growing up, and we brought it to him a few weeks ago, like, hey, like, best shot for you at nationals we think might be the 4 hurdles. Well, coach, I've never hurdled. So we've started practicing in the last few weeks, and his hips are a little tight, and it's a new movement for him. So this was his first ever 400 hurdle race. And why don't you tell me how the first 7 or 8 hurdles went?
Awesome. He taking a non-hurdler and putting them in a hurdle event is always a little interesting because you don't know, how are they going to actually navigate the hurdle. And he's struggled a little bit, the first couple weeks, getting the right mentality and attacking the hurdle, not jumping. But he's made some very quick progress over the last, 3 weeks. His first, going through that first 200, he was running exactly the way I want him to. He was getting out. He was being very aggressive. He was attacking on and off the hurdle, to kind of make up for the lack of hurdle skill. But he was running exactly the way I would want him to, honestly, a little bit better than I expected him to his first race. And then he came around, I think it was hurdle, would have been hurdle 7 or 8. It might have been 8, coming off of the second curve. Went to switch legs, didn't quite get his lead leg up enough.
Yeah, he said
clipped
something
the hurdle.
About he saw something on the track and he wanted to get a closer look at it.
But yeah, he went down on hurdle 8, but he did exactly what he should have. He rolled into that fall, rolled off the track, got back up, continued the race, ran very, very well considering he had just fallen. Didn't miss a step and still ran a 56.03.
Which is missing the regional qualifier by .03.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
But I think as a whole, I think it was a success.
100%.
The test was a success. To run a 56.0 and fall in your first ever race. Is great. Realistically, that could be low 54, high 53, that race. Now, who's to say you might go out the next time and might be a little bit more apprehensive, might not push as hard, or he's got it figured out, like, I can run harder because he looked pretty comfortable after it.
Yeah, after on the drive home, he had actually texted me. He's like, hey, Coach, what do you think about running at Ursinus? And, we decided to rest him because we figured, one, he'd probably be a little bit sore than he was expecting. But, that's the mentality I want from all of my athletes as a whole is, they have those, they see those opportunities to compete, and they know that they can do better than they did maybe the previous week or, the previous year in a certain event, but they have that drive and determination, and they want to go out and they want to, improve those times and show that, they have that skill there. So that was, very encouraging to see, because a lot of the times when you see an athlete fall in the hurdle race, like you said, that next race they could be a little bit passive, a little bit apprehensive about, being scared to fall again. And, that's not the impression I got from him. Like he was hungry to go and get it because, like, he knew that he was running a very good race, and he wants that opportunity to put down that time.
Yeah, and I think, it's going to be exciting to watch him grow in that. When we first started, we all talked, and, well, you and I talked mostly. If not this year, next for sure.
Yeah.
But to wrap up York, some decent field event performances. I know Rebecca Cree missed her PR in the discus by like a centimeter. Kendall Sims, she took first place in the pole vault. That didn't finish till like 10:30 at night. The men's
Broke a lot of poles.
The men's competition broke 4 crossbars, which might be a record. And first year, Hayden Durst got a personal best in the vault as well with 425. Outdoor jumps, not a whole lot to talk about. Annie had some really good jumps. It would have been a personal best for her. But let's fast forward to Ursinus on Saturday. Well, Friday and Saturday. Friday, a few hammer throwers down there. Not a whole lot came of that. They were down there. They competed. They placed well. I think in the men's we had 3 in the top 10. Women maybe a couple in the top 10. But I did not go Saturday because I had some family stuff going on. So why don't you go through Ursinus quick? It's probably the nicest weather we're going to have for a meet for a while.
Yes.
And I don't know if we're ready for it, but share the Ursinus with us.
Yeah, I think, when you look at outdoor, there's, once you start getting nicer weather, especially that first time, sometimes the kids don't quite prepare as well as they should for, all of the sun and how to navigate that. And I think that was definitely on show a little bit at Ursinus. I don't think they were prepared quite as well as they needed to for the heat and the sun. But we had some pretty decent performances, kind of going back to what I talked about at the beginning. We were relatively consistent across the board. We had a few PRs. We had a couple distance PRs. Riley just continuing to crush it. Pretty much almost every time she steps on the track, it seems like she's running some PRs. Jack had a PR in the 800, so that was really nice to see, changing that event group up a little bit, starting to see that training's, taking effect, and they're responding well to that. And, our women performed relatively well. Like I said, we were pretty consistent across the board. No PRs out of the 100, but again, we were relatively close, so that was, again, encouraging to see. We had 3 PRs on the day in the 200. With Megan, technically Katie had a collegiate PR, first time running it though, but preparing her for what's to come.
I went back and checked. I think that's her lifetime. She ran it in high school.
Is
before.
It okay? Yeah. Kai breaking 30 was a big step for her. That's been something she's been talking about for a couple of weeks, so it was really encouraging and nice to see because that's an event she is not her favorite event. So it was nice to see that she had some pretty good success there. Trying Katie out in the hurdles the first time, unfortunately, she had a relatively similar race to Mason in the 4 hurdles. She came on hurdle 8 and, just tried to she 5-stepped a hurdle and then tried to get back on that 4-step, and it just didn't work well. Went down, but again, another one that got back up and continued and finished the race. So that's nice to see when you have hurdlers go down, because a lot of the times you're just going to see them walk off the track. It was a pretty good day overall.
Yeah, I think as a whole, it was what we wanted it to be. It gave
Yeah.
some people that wouldn't be able to travel some other times an opportunity to get a race under their belt.
Yeah.
Vaulters went again, or at least a few of them. Up and down, no pun intended, performance from them. It was the first time they got to jump outside this year.
Yeah.
And that's good. It's different from jumping inside. And then throwers, a few throwers went to that as well.
Yep.
Pretty much same as Friday. Had some decent performances. Nothing that really, rewrote any record books or anything like that. But they're able to get another meet under their belt because likely a lot of those people are going to be off this weekend.
Yeah.
And that's moving into this week. We got a pretty busy week. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year, the multi-week, where we get to host our big outdoor multi. And this year we're going to have about 24 men, 23 women competing, in the multi that starts on Thursday. We'll split them up into 2 groups with the orange group, maroon group. Really good competitors this year.
Yeah.
We had some late withdrawals from Carnegie Mellon and Johns Hopkins, which affected the fields pretty drastically, but still the men's orange group, I think the cutoff is like 6,400 points to make that group, which is very high.
Yeah.
And the women, we've got a couple Division III All-Americans that are going to be in that from the indoor pentathlon, some Division I, Division II. So all 3 divisions are going to be represented this week. That's Thursday and Friday. We're going to have Rowan and Liam will be competing for the men, and then Katie is going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Something we had talked about with her potentially for next year. We're going to do it this year, but then the conference took it away at the last minute.
Yeah.
So we're going to give her a shot, just kind of winging it. She's tried hurdles. She's tried most of the events. We did long jump for the first time yesterday. Went pretty well. So she's just going out to have fun. You know, the weather's supposed to be pretty decent. I know it's a little cold out there today, but we're looking at Thursday and Friday. Low 60s, Friday hopefully mid-70s, which is great multi-weather.
Yes, it is.
And then this weekend, we're actually going to go to Bucknell. We're going to send a few more people to Bucknell than we normally do. I know, like, distance-wise, we're going to send a small group up there, and we don't know who's actually going to get in yet. Entries closed yesterday, so hopefully we find out today or tomorrow. And then so most of those races are Saturday for distance, 10K, 5K. And then Sunday, we're going to send, some of our, I guess we'll say our main sprinters. No field events really except for the Kendall and the Vault. But I'm kind of excited. I would like to see how the 4x1 can do. Austin, what do you expect? What are you expecting up there at Bucknell this weekend?
I'm hoping for big things. Bucknell is a Division I school, so there should hopefully be some good competition. Specifically for the 4x1, I know when you have people close to you, it definitely pushes you to go a lot harder. We just got to make sure those handoffs are nice and clean and hopefully dip under 41 for the first time this season.
Yeah, that'd be nice. The weather's supposed to be pretty decent. I know up there at Bucknell, the wind's always a little bit crazy. It's kind of like a pen relays with the bowl type. Sprints-wise, hopefully hurdlers can do well. We're going to put Mason in 4 hurdles again. And hopefully if he gets in. Like I said, we don't know who to get in yet. But hopefully the weather holds out. It looks like it could be a great weekend. It's long. April's a long month.
Yes, it is.
But, yeah, I mean, all in all, I think it's going to be a good weekend. What are you most excited for Bucknell?
I think, trying to go with a different answer other than the 4 hurdles because, that's, again, a special event for me. But I think the 4x1 would probably be one that I'm really looking forward to, having what I would consider probably our true A squad back together, getting Austin back on that relay and getting them some good competition because we really haven't had great competition yet. Aside from maybe one school.
I don't think we won last at York, did we?
Yeah, that was the one school. But, getting them some good competition because I know there's going to be some good programs, though, some good D1 programs like Bucknell. We've got some good D2 programs with Slippery Rock, Shippensburg. So it'll be some very good competition and allow them to really, kind of get an idea on where that team really stands from a national standpoint. And, hopefully, like Austin said, hopefully breaking 51 for the first time this year.
41, yeah. 41. But yeah, so it's hopefully looking to be a good weekend. So Austin, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. Coach Weir, as always, it's been great.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys could hear us all right. Like I said, we're in the field house. There's some people in here practicing on a new setup. Hopefully the camera didn't fail like it did last time. But once again, thank you guys for joining us. This has been the JT Exchange Podcast, and we will catch you next time.